You are listening to the second segment of our four-part series, Serenity Medicine, with Susan Weed at Time Monk Radio. Hello, Susan. Welcome back to Time Monk Radio.
Hi, Gemini. It's great to be back here with you. I hope that you had an opportunity to follow up on some of the things we talked about last week when we were talking about Serenity Medicine. Maybe you had an opportunity to find the movie Hysteria. I think it's pretty easily available now out of the theaters, and perhaps even to start a meditation practice, which we talked about, and to think about the adrenals and their part in stress, and that television set with all of those loud noises and fast motions, and how that might be adversely affecting your ability to cope with stress. Now, those of you who know me and follow my work know that I am really very much in favor of nettle for strengthening the adrenals. Stinging nettle infusion. You can go to YouTube and you can find YouTubes of me making stinging nettle infusion and talking about, because there's a lot that stinging nettle can do for you, and it's certainly an infusion that I drink on a very regular basis. I usually have 4 or 5 quarts of stinging nettle infusion a month. It's one of the 5 infusions that I rotate through. And again, that's for, I call it the stress-proof herb. When you drink stinging nettle, you are not going to have the same reaction to stress that you did before, because it's going to rebuild, strengthen, and tonify the adrenals. But this week, I want to focus on the marvelous Calm Lamiaceae. Oh, that's kind of a big word, isn't that? Lamiaceae. That's the new name for the mint family. It used to be called the Labiatae. And yes, that's just what you think it means. In German, they're called the Lippenblumen. And the flowers do have lips on them, but their new name is the Lamiaceae. And I like it because the lamia and calm kind of go together. And that reminds us that while we may think of mint family plants as being things that can aid digestion, and they certainly do, and things that revive our interest, and they certainly do, let's not neglect the fact that they are some of the best relievers of anxiety of any plants that grow anywhere in the world. I'm talking about Motherwort, Leonurus cardiaca, lemon balm, Melissa officinalis, lavender, Lavandula officinalis, catnip, nepeta, cateria, rosemary, Rosmarinus officinalis, sage, Salvia officinalis, thyme, Thymus vulgaris, and bergamot, any of the monardas, but especially Monarda didyma. Motherwort, lemon balm, lavender, catnip, rosemary, sage, thyme, and bergamot. Wonderful mints that help relieve anxiety. This week, I especially want to talk about Motherwort and lemon balm, but I think that we will have some time to talk about the others as well. Now, mints, of course, interface perfectly safely and perfectly fine with any kind of medication that you're taking. Right? These are related to peppermint, so it'd be like drinking a cup of peppermint tea, although you're going to be using these herbs in slightly different forms, but it's as safe as drinking a cup of peppermint tea. So if you're concerned about using herbs with your medication, rather than asking your doctor about specific herbs, because you know most MDs, they just don't get any training at all in herbs, and you start asking them about Motherwort, they don't know what you're talking about. But they know about mint. I mean, everybody knows about mint tea. So if you say to your whoever's prescribing those anti-anxiety drugs, you say, hey, would it be okay if I had mint tea? And they say yes, then you are in the free and clear to use any of these herbs, and not just as teas, but also as tinctures and vinegars. Motherwort, Leonurus cardiaca. Leo is the lion. Cardiac is the heart. And so we could say that the botanical name of this plant tells us that it gives us the heart of a lion. Well, now, lions are not anxious, are they? Not at all. So motherwort, in fact, seems to have a very direct, strong, and almost immediate effect on people who are feeling anxious. I make a tincture of the flowering tops of motherwort. Motherwort has a very long flowering period. It usually starts flowering mid-June and can often be found in flower well into mid-September. It is a common garden weed, and once again, you can find a YouTube of me making motherwort tincture. As a matter of fact, I think we just posted a new YouTube of me making motherwort tincture out in this luscious field of motherwort just, 5 or 6 weeks ago. So it's a brand new one. You may not have seen it, and it's really an amazing field of motherwort. So look around and see if you can find some, and if you can't, then you want to buy the tincture made from the fresh flowering tops. Now, there are motherwort tinctures out there for sale made from the dried motherwort, and I'll tell you truthfully, I find them basically useless. So read the label really carefully where you go, or I know, because these two businesses are run by past apprentices of mine, that you can get fresh flowering tops of motherwort tinctured from red moon herbs or from Catskill mountain herbs. Those are both good sources for tinctures made from the fresh flowering top of the plant, not from the dried plant. So what does motherwort do? How does motherwort deal with anxiety? Well, let me tell you a little bit about my friend Edith. My friend Edith had 5 daughters. And Edith came to me because she was having very severe hot flashes. And I was in my 30s. I don't think anyone had ever even said the word menopause to me before Edith. And here is this woman saying, you've got to help me. You know, I'm like passing out from my hot flashes. And I really didn't know much of what to do, but I started going through my books and reading. Well, of course, the word menopause was not in any of the books, but I had her kind of describe what was going on. And it sounded like there was some blood vessel things going on, maybe some heart things going on. And motherwort sounded like it could be really helpful for her. So we tinctured some flowering tops, fresh flowering tops of motherwort, waited 6 weeks, and she began to take that, and she said it was the biggest blessing of her entire life. Now, during that 6-week period, Edith, who was very interested in plants, began reading up about motherwort, and she found out a lot of interesting things about motherwort. As a matter of fact, so much so that she started recommending it to every single person in her family. She had remarried. The man she was married to was not the father of her children. He was a lovely older man, and he had had 3 heart attacks before Edith had married him, and she was committed to keeping him from having another heart attack. And so she decided he should take motherwort on a regular basis. Lion heart. She wanted him to have a lion heart. Edith chose to die at home of breast cancer, and this husband and I were at the funeral. And as we looked down into the grave, he turned to me and he said, you know, it'd be you and Edith kicking dirt down in my hole if she hadn't gotten me to start taking motherwort. His doctor was just amazed at the strength of his heart and the calmness that he had as well. What if Edith's 5 daughters, well, one of her daughters had a very high-pressure job with a boss who yelled at her all the time, and she was always so nervous and so stressed out about going to work, and she just didn't know what to do. And she said to her mom, maybe I should just go to a doctor and get some pills for anxiety and just take a pill before I go to work, and then maybe I can just get through it and not be anxious. And Edith said, no, I don't want you to do that. Here's a bottle of motherwort tincture. Take it to work with you, and any time you think you need it, just take some motherwort tincture. Well, a couple of weeks later, I was over at Edith's house, and this daughter walked in, and she looked at us, and she said with the biggest smile on her face, she said, you two have really saved my life, and I think maybe I might even be in line for a promotion thanks to you and motherwort. She said, I seem to be one of the only people around who can deal with my boss with a smile, because I have motherwort. And anytime I start to feel upset, I just take some Motherwort, and I feel like I'm sitting in Mama's lap again, whereas she went over and gave Edith a big hug. Another one of Edith's daughters married a man, had a son, and then decided, ooh, wrong man. Okay, so they got a divorce, and they shared custody. And her son, who's pretty young, wasn't saying anything, but he became more and more reluctant to go to Father's house. And it got to the point where he was clinging to the stair banister and screaming, no, 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 and it was time to go to Dad's house. And so Mom thought perhaps there was something going on, and this wasn't just, kind of a toddler trauma. So when her son got home from Dad's house, she gave him a bath, and she documented the bruises that she saw in him. Now, I'm a grandma, and I know that kids are always bruised up. It can be really hard to tell if a kid is actually being hit because they fall down a lot and they bruise pretty easily. But apparently when she took the photographs to her general practitioner agreed with her that given the behavioral changes in her son and what he could see from the photographs, it was a strong likelihood that there was some physical punishment going on. And so she said to her son, you don't have to go to Daddy's house anymore. Well, now, unfortunately, she broke the law in doing that, and because they did have a legal shared custody agreement, and by not giving up her son for the shared custody, she had broken the law, and so her husband took her to court over her breaking the custody agreement, and the judge awarded the child, to her husband. Took the child away from her and gave her to us, despite the testimony of the doctor, the photographs, and so on. Well, Edith and I were sitting here awaiting the decision, and she drove up, stormed into the house, and was ready to kill her ex-husband and to kill the judge on top of it. And I gave her a glass of water with a liberal dose of Motherwort tincture in it, and she drank it down. And within about 15 minutes, she was sitting there making plans to kill the judge and plans to kill her husband. Because that's what Motherwort does. It doesn't turn us into drooling idiots who don't know what we're doing. It helps us not be anxious about what's happening, but be powerful and take charge. In fact, she did what tens of thousands of other parents have done across the United States. She kidnapped her own child and moved, we don't know where, because she couldn't even tell us where she had moved to. She couldn't even give us a phone number, or her child would have been taken away from her. There is not an epidemic of kidnapping in the United States. As a matter of fact, the rates of actual kidnapping in the United States are lower than they have ever been. Most of these so-called missing children are with a birth parent, because it's not infrequent that what I just described happens. Well, one parent is doing something that's not on the up and up, and the other parent, because they don't understand the law, breaks the law by trying to protect the child and then loses the custodianship of the child. Wow, she said, I'm taking this whole bottle of Motherwort with me, and we were glad that she did, that we sent her love every single day. What a strong and powerful choice to protect her child. One of Edith's daughters had very bad PMS, and she found that taking Motherwort tincture on a daily basis from the time of ovulation until menstruation completely prevented any PMS, anxiety, or craziness from occurring for her. Another one of Edith's daughters had very bad menstrual cramps, and she found that taking doses of 5 drops of Motherwort tincture every 5 to 10 minutes eliminated her menstrual cramps, not only once, not only twice, but after she had taken it 4 months in a row, she never had any more menstrual cramps again. Because Motherwort relieves anxiety. Motherwort strengthens the heart. Motherwort helps to relieve spasms of the muscles. And Motherwort helps everything flow and move easily in our lives. Feeling anxious? Reach for Motherwort. I went to teach at Row Camp and Conference Center one weekend, leaving here, my home, Friday afternoon. A past apprentice had agreed to come and take care of the goats while I was gone. And goats have to be fed and taken out and milked twice a day. And I wasn't worried that she wasn't here. I left in the afternoon. The goats don't get milked into the evening. I put the goats in the barn, said goodbye to them, and drove off. I taught Friday night and all day Saturday. But when I woke up Sunday morning, I had this most awful feeling. And I said to my class, I must go home. I will finish our morning session, and I'm not going to stay for lunch. I have to just go right away, and we might even wind up, a little bit early, like 15 minutes earlier. So something is happening at my house, and I have to get back there. I'm not sure what it is. And I drove home, couldn't drive fast because it's very windy, mountainous roads, but I drove as quickly as I could, got home to discover she hadn't shown up. No one had taken care of the goats during the entire time I had been gone. They had not received any water. They had not received any food. They had not been milked. Before I could do anything, I had to go in the house and take some Motherwort. Nothing had happened. The goats were okay. Their udders hadn't burst. It was late in the year, so they weren't giving a lot of milk. I had left them with some hay, so they weren't really starving to death, although they were pretty thirsty, and I had to haul a lot of water out there for them. But I took the Motherwort because I was anxious about what could have happened. And to me, this is one of the main indicators of Motherwort, is that Motherwort helps us when we are anxious about what hasn't yet happened, but what could happen. Bothered by that kind of anxiety, Motherwort will be a real ally for you. I met a woman in Texas who worked at a very interesting place, but she said to me, my boss just makes me nuts. I feel like I'm sitting on an atom bomb and it could go off at any second. I said, well, you don't look like you're a nervous wreck or stressed. So, are you doing something? And she said, well, yeah, I'm using lemon balm. And I said, lemon balm, huh? Are you making lemon balm tea? And she said, no, I'm not making lemon balm tea. I started out by making lemon balm tincture. I said, okay, so you filled a jar with chopped fresh lemon balm, poured 100 proof vodka over it, let it sit for 6 weeks, and then you took that. She said, well, I did, but I didn't find it as effective as I wanted it to be. So I actually took that tincture, and I harvested more lemon balm. She lives in a more tropical area than I do, not really tropical or even, possibly semi-tropical, but rarely frost there. So it's a long growing season for the lemon balm, which is even in my area can be fresh and green well into December. So no, I harvested more lemon balm, chopped it up, filled the jar with it, and then I poured that first tincture over it. I said, wow, a double tincture. She said, yeah. I said, and then you took that. She said, well, I did, but I didn't really find it as effective as I wanted it to be. I said, so you went on to another herb? She said, no, I did not. She said, I got some more lemon balm. And I chopped it up, and I filled a jar full of lemon balm, and then I poured my double tincture over it. I said, you made a triple tincture of lemon balm using fresh lemon balm 3 times in the same alcohol, pouring it from one bottle to the next. She said, you got it, Susan. That's exactly what I did. I said, and now? She said, he could have 10 atom bombs and a hydrogen bomb under my desk, and I would just say, interesting. I said, you're kidding me. She said, nope. You just asked me what I was doing, and I'm telling you what I am doing. I am now not worried about anything that doesn't need me to worry about it. She said, I'm still functional. I can still cope with something that needs to be dealt with. You know, if there's a fire to be put out, I can put that fire out, speaking metaphorically, of course. She said, but I no longer spend my time worrying about fires that might happen, and I might have to put them out. I said, yes, those marvelous calming nymphs. They help bring us back to the present moment. And instead of fretting and being anxious about things that might happen, we can be alert and actually more capable of dealing with things that really do need our attention. I said, and so is your boss calmer? She said, well, actually, it's interesting that you asked that because, yes, I do find that since I'm not so anxious anymore, since I'm not so worried about what might happen, my boss is far easier for everyone to deal with. As a matter of fact, people have been coming by and thanking me for being the calm center in the storm that used to take place here all the time. I said, that's what I like about herbs, you know. There's something about using the herbs that seems to have not just a personal effect, but a community effect too. Whereas when we take drugs, it tends to be a very private thing. So we might take a drug that would relieve our anxiety, but is it going to help others around us? Perhaps if we are less anxious, we could say that that was helping others. But using things like Motherwort, fresh tincture of the flowering tops of Motherwort, or lemon balm, fresh lemon balm, harvested at any time. Most people prefer to get it before it flowers because it gets a little, kind of leggy and weird once it flowers. Either one of those is a wonderful ally and, of course, absolutely safe to take along with any anti-anxiety or antidepressive medicine that you might be taking. These are mint family plants. They are not drug-like in their action, and they are Serenity medicine. Now, I mentioned to you last week that this whole idea about anxiety and depression and the modern stress is a kind of new thing. And I looked in one of my favorite books. I'm so sorry that this book is out of print. It's called The Herb Book. And it's really one of my favorite books because it just has so much information in there. And it's toward the beginning, it has long, long lists of herbs that can be useful in various conditions like gallbladder, hair loss, gout, and so on. Well, no, anxiety is not here. Depression is not here. But nervous conditions is indeed here. And I thought it might amuse, delight, or possibly even edify you to hear the list of herbs that are suggested to help those dealing with nervous conditions. Almonds, American Sanicle, balm. I'm guessing that is bee balm. Betony, blue vervain, borage, catnip, celery, corydalis, linden, valerian, garden violet, German chamomile, hawthorn, henbane, hops, Indian pipe, jasmine, lavender, lettuce, life everlasting, motherwort, musk mallow, nerve root, New Jersey tea, olives, pansies, passion flower, peach tree, pearly everlasting, peppermint, periwinkle, queen of the meadow, scarlet pimpernel, rosemary, sage, St. John's wort, savory, skullcap, skunk cabbage, spruce, partridge berry, thyme, twin leaf, clover, marjoram, wild yam, witch hazel, and woodruff. Wow, quite the list. Did you notice how many plants in the mint family were on that list? The ones that I mentioned at the beginning of the show were motherwort, lemon balm, lavender, catnip, rosemary, sage, thyme, and bergamot. That's balm or bee balm. Let's talk a little bit more about catnip, because catnip is a pretty fascinating plant. And last week I mentioned that one of my mentors, Yarina, worked a lot with children who had ADD. And it does seem that more and more parents are being told that their child has a diagnosis of ADHD or ADD. And many of them say, is there anything that can be used? Well, of course, now the herbals that are in print are not going to tell us anything about this. These are fairly new and modern, shall we call them, problems. But I did find one person who had been using catnip tincture as an aid to helping children with these difficulties to become more focused. And somebody said to me, well, gosh, it makes my cat crazy. And I say, well, wait, and then? And they look at me, and then they get this slow smile, and they go, and then my cat goes to sleep, a sleep from which you could pick the cat up and drape it over a chair, and the cat wouldn't wake up. And I said, yes, and isn't that exactly what we want? Because the drugs that are given children with ADHD or ADD are actually stimulant drugs. So catnip, because it has that little kind of whoop at the top of it, and then that at the bottom of it, works so well with these children. Catnip is also, of course, a plant that has been used very frequently to help relieve anxiety. And one of the nice things about catnip is that catnip can be dried, the leaves crumbled up, and then rolled up in a cigarette paper and smoked. And smoking catnip gives all of the anti-anxiety and anti-spasmodic properties of the catnip. So a catnip cigarette or a catnip spliff or a catnip joint, as you will relieve menstrual cramps, will relieve anxiety, and will usually do this with the first in-draw of the smoke. That fast, wham! Light up that catnip cigarette, pull that smoke in, and no more anxiety. That's an herbal friend that we are very glad to have. This is Susun Weed, and you're listening to Time Monk Radio. And this month we are talking about Serenity medicine. Last week we talked about serenity in general and stress in general, and why it is that we actually want to have some stress in our life. And this week we have been focusing on the calming Lamiaceae. If there was a mint family plant that you especially enjoyed that I didn't mention, you could give it a try. That long list that I read, you certainly had a few others that weren't in my top picks. Lavender, interestingly enough, is quite calming as a tea, and many of these mints can be used as a tea. Not Motherwort. It's real bitter. You won't like it as a tea. Don't go there with it. Tincture of the Motherwort. But the other ones, lemon balm, catnip, rosemary, sage, thyme, bergamot, wonderful teas. Teaspoonful of herb in a cup, pour boiling water over it. 2-3 minutes. Add a little honey, drink it down. Don't steep your teas for long. All right. So the lavender, while a lavender tea is calming and relieves anxiety, lavender oil is generally classified as a stimulant. And there are, in fact, a great many books that warn against using lavender oil in the bath if you have sleeping problems, because it's thought to keep you up. And I find this amazing because I have heard so many people say, if you're anxious, take a lavender bath. Good advice, and I know which books they've read it in. It's wonderful advice. But those books meant a bath with lavender, flowers. And these people are instead using lavender oil, because they think of it as a simpler way to get that. What we must always remember is that plants that have volatile oils, those volatile oils can be isolated, concentrated, and purified into essential oils. And those three things, isolation, concentration, and purification, are how we change a plant into a drug. Essential oils are not natural medicine. They are pharmaceutical medicine. So next week and the week after that, we are going to look at herbs that can help us if we're depressed, if we have insomnia, and if there's real distress going on. Looking forward to being right here with you at Time Monk Radio to reclaim herbal medicine as people's medicine.
Wonderful. Thank you, Susan. This completes the second segment of our four-part series, Serenity Medicine with Susan Weed at Time Monk Radio.